Welcome back. Now, South Africans are heading to the polls on the 28th of May 2024. Nearly 28 million South Africans, registered voters, have a chance to elect representatives to the national and provincial parliaments. Now, it will be the country's 7th democratic general elections. The elections have been taking place every 5 years since 1994, when the white minority rule ended and the ANC came to power. Evaristo Banheira, professor of African politics at UNISA, as well as a political analyst, now joins us on the line all the way from Pretoria to engage us on these upcoming elections. Good morning, Prof, and welcome to GMN.
Good morning to you and good morning to the viewers, and thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure to host you. Now, the upcoming South African elections, which will set the tone for the country's future, what are your impressions so far in terms of preparations for the elections?
The various spheres that are involved in the processes of elections in South Africa are ready to go. Of course, there are the usual challenges, legal challenges, security challenges, and so on. The key aspect here is to look at the preparedness of the Election Management Board, which in this case is the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa, the IEC. Is the IEC ready? Yes. The ballot papers were printed, they are ready. The voters' roll was inspected. The voters' roll is ready. The polling stations were announced, and the IEC is ready to go. However, on the legal front, that is where we foresee a lot of challenges, because there have been numerous litigations, more than 10 litigations against the IEC by various political parties and independent political parties. The biggest of these, or the most prominent one, is the Umkhonto weSizwe Party versus the Independent Electoral Commission, which was basically about whether former President Jacob Zuma should be allowed on the ballot paper or not. That case was finalized yesterday, and the Constitutional Court ruled that former President Jacob Zuma cannot be elected as a parliamentarian because of his 15 months prison sentence, which he served and was later pardoned for. From the legal perspective, the biggest challenge is civic education in terms of the new legal framework that for the first time has introduced independent candidates and 3 ballot papers. So this, in my view, was not well explained to the citizens. Besides the issue of the civic education, security is good to go. Of course, there is low-level political violence, especially in KwaZulu-Natal, and there are ongoing strike actions by various sectors, especially the Municipal Workers Union of South Africa, SAMU. They are demonstrating with a labor-related dispute. Some constituencies have indicated that they will demonstrate on election day, 29 May, very close to the polling stations. Again, it is their democratic and constitutional right to demonstrate, as long as they do not interfere with the voting processes. So the election observers, they are here, the short-term election observers, another key component to electoral democracy. They are here in South Africa, and they are busy going through the familiarization processes. Civic organizations, non-governmental organizations are also ready. And most importantly, the fourth estate, the media, both public and private media, and there are also some international media organizations that are here in South Africa for this 7th election. So my analysis is that all the sectors are ready, and the elections will definitely go on.
Okay. Now, Prof, talking about that ruling concerning Zuma and the MK party, was that expected? Was that the expected outcome in terms of the ruling by the Constitutional Court? And did he stand a chance to possibly make it to Parliament and possibly have an impact in terms of these elections?
President Jacob Zuma is a person who plays his politics right to the last available option. So I don't think he has exhausted his legal actions. We may see him going to the United Nations. We may see him go to any other body, even SADC or African Union. So this ruling was expected by those who are of the view that the pardoning of the president by the pardoning of the former president by the current president did not have a legal effect on his conviction. that he was pardoned of his sentence, but not the conviction being quashed. So those are the majority of the people who viewed it that way, that still he remained guilty, notwithstanding the fact that he was pardoned and he did not serve the rest of the sentence. Then there are others who argued that the Electoral Commission of South Africa did not have the power to adjudicate on that matter on section 47(1)(e) of the Constitution, which is a constitutional provision that determines who goes to parliament and who is disqualified from being a parliamentarian. So those in that camp argue that constitutional section 47(1)(e) must be interpreted by the parliament as a commitment to the separation of powers. So it's very legal, it's very technical, but the beauty, if I may put it, is that the constitutional judgment of yesterday was a unanimous one. There was no minority judgment. That in some way shows that the legal minds viewed and agreed on the assertion that if you are pardoned, that does not have an implication on your sentencing, that you remained guilty as charged, notwithstanding the fact that you did not serve your full prison sentence.
Okay. So legal issues again, trying to solve electoral matters. Is that the best way to go? And is it over for Zuma and the MK party with regards to the upcoming elections from your point of view?
When politics meets the law, in my view, the law will always be prior to politics, because it is politics which constitutes the law. So in this case, President Zuma started his strategy by using the legal route. He exhausted, or he is almost exhausting, all his legal rights. He will definitely go to the political arena. We will recall how he used each court appearance as a political rally. Now, some would say President Zuma and the MK party have already won because the outside vote went on. President Zuma was on the ballot paper. As people vote on the 29th of May, the E-Day, President Jacob Zuma's face will be on the ballot paper. And it is for the first time that the former president of a political party is appearing on the ballot paper for another political party. And technically, President Zuma is still a member, a serving member of the African National Congress. So here is a former leader of the ANC who is technically still a member of the ANC, appearing as the face of another political party. So people say for President Jacob Zuma, this will give him the leverage to give the so-called marching orders to the MK cadres from his residence in Kandla.
Okay.
Given his advanced age, I don't think he was in any case going to be deployed in parliament. It is, in my view, a political strategy to galvanize support around Jacob Zuma, the perennial victim of the system.
Okay. Now, in terms of these upcoming elections, who do you foresee to be the next president? Are they likely to come from a majority of the ANC or a coalition government? And what is at stake for the ANC should Nate not be able to win? And also being mindful that there are again other elections in 4 countries in SADC, that mainly being South Africa, Botswana, Mauritius, and Mozambique, are all due to host their presidential and national assembly election. What are the prospects for the rest of the region? And will the elections in South Africa possibly also influence all the other elections in the other states that I've mentioned?
South Africa is one of the leading democracies in our region, and we take a lot of good political lessons from South Africa, be it the formation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, be it the running of the Independent Electoral Commission, be it how to incorporate independent candidates into the group quota system method. So a lot of lessons have been drawn and will continue to be drawn from South Africa's political scenario. Coming to the question that you asked me about the African National Congress and who is going to be who is going likely to be the next president. So we have a new political entrant, the MK party, which definitely is going to take votes from various political parties, including the African National Congress, including the Democratic Alliance and the Economic Freedom Fighters, and also the Inkatha Freedom Party, especially in the hotly contested KwaZulu-Natal province. I foresee a reduction in voter participation and engagement. Some call it voter apathy. I foresee the African National Congress winning the majority of the seats, albeit with a reduced percentage. Maybe if you push me between 38 and 42%, it is not going to go above 45%. A lot of poll predictions are pointing in that direction. That will then give rise to coalitions of various formations, even in the national government, because for the first time, the 2/3 is not only failed as a target by the ANC, but it is heavily compromised. This will force the African National Congress to enter into various coalitions with even independent political parties and so-called smaller parties.
Okay.
What this will have as an effect on the democracy of South Africa is that it will have a hybrid and compromised democracy because of the rise of many king and queen makers. Now, with so many interests, independent parties, political parties voting your president in power, let's say, as the polls are predicting, an ANC president supported by other political parties and independent candidates, what power will him and his political party have to implement their agenda? Because now it is no longer a matter of ideological alignment, but one of who has the number of seats that I want in order to have a 2/3 majority so that I can vote my candidate as the president, or so that I can have my policy pass. So South Africa is going to get into this election, is to come out of this election heavily compromised and in need of serious coalitions, both at national and at provincial level. This will obviously indicate for the first time in South Africa a heavily wounded former liberation movement in power. Key lessons must be drawn for sister and brother organizations such as Frelimo in Mozambique, SWAPO in Namibia, Chama Mapinduzi in Tanzania, and other political parties, other former liberation movements that are in power today, that after 30 years in power, something begins to happen. What is it that with the former liberation movement in power, that after 30 years, it begins to lose its popularity and power? We saw that with President Kamuzu Banda in Malawi. We saw that with President Kenneth Kaunda in Zambia when he lost power to Frederick Chiluba after 30 years. So there is something about the former liberation movement that after 30 years, it begins to be so unpopular. Is it because there is a new generation of youth that are coming up, which changes the voter demography, or it is that the former liberation movement starts to run out of imagination on how to run the state?
Prof, unfortunately, we are out of time. I wish we could continue more conversations, but thank you very much for making time to speak to us this morning.
It's a pleasure.
Okay. Now, that was Professor Evaristo Benyera, who is a political analyst and a professor of African politics at the UNISA University there in South Africa, talking to us about the issue with regards to the upcoming elections in South Africa, which are due next week on the 29th, and so much more. Now, section GMN continues with more conversations after this break.